All right, let's start the YouTube feed here. Hey, everybody on YouTube. Welcome to another night. We hit midweek. It's hump day. Hump day. Yes, we made it. We made it. And you know what? The weekend is in sight. And I'm actually taking a day off tomorrow. Yes, not on the show. I'll be on for the show. But during the day, I'm actually taking a day off. It's rare. First one in like almost 3 months. But you know what? Sometimes you got to. And I'm going out to play in the mud tomorrow. Anyways, I want to say hello to everybody who is here so far. Mere Person, you're looking fantastic tonight. Crystal Light, you're looking very bright. Triple M, good to have you here. Brett, thank you for coming on in again. Jason McDaniel, always a pleasure to have you here. The gorgeous and talented Kira, thank you for joining us. And who else do we got here? Tammy Jackson, everyone. Give her a round of applause because she looks fantastic tonight. Game Vet, good to have you here, man. Thank you for coming on in. Tammy Finnegan, that's a great pair of shoes you're wearing tonight. I don't know what you're wearing, but hey, what the hell? What the heck? Good to have you here. First time here. Thank you for joining our chat room and welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Hopefully you can become a regular too. Millennium, good to have you here. Thank you for coming on in. Hey, Vintage, good to see you here as well. Kevin, I know you're not doing tricks again, are you? Nikki, thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you here. Bart L. and the Third Nipple Crew, where have you been hiding? I can just imagine. He comes out of the dungeon for midweek. That's always good. Middle Child, Treehouse, good to have you here. The gorgeous and talented Becky from Manitoba. Thank you for coming on in. Oh, okay, good to have you here. Kyung Cunning, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. I hope you enjoy it. Renee, good to see you here. Worsley. Oh, they just keep coming, man. They just keep coming. And, you know, and it's always a pleasure when we get new people here. Bigfoot Michigan Rob. By the way, our guest tonight, Gary Wayne. Gary, with Rob, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, we play a little game. See, he has a bar in Michigan, Gary, and it's called the Scoreboard Grill, Bar and Grill. And they have actually decided that every time we say the word plethora during the show, the entire bar has to buy a round off the bar. Every time we use the word woo, the bartender needs to buy the entire bar a round. So we got to go a little nuts here with that.
Well, I think we should say plethora and woo a few times then. We need to get the people in the mood there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to do that. Lou Fawn, good to have you here. Dick Daigle, first overall pick in the 1993 NHL draft. Don't call him a bust, people. Never. Cookie Jarvis is here. Ad Gnome and his guitar specially and his band of gnomes. Yes. Good to have you here, Ad Gnome. Gary Wayne is here. We're talking about the Bible tonight. And no, we are better than Oprah. We're just cheaper. That's all I'm going to say, Bart L. Hey, Zach, good to have you here, Van. Thank you for coming on in. Always a pleasure. And yeah, we're about 2 minutes away, Gary.
Excellent. Excellent.
I think so. And we're going to have a good time. Pharmacy, good to have you here. They keep coming in. They just don't stop. God, we haven't even started the show. We got 54 people in our chat room.
Well, we can get it up to at least 500 or 1,000 fairly quickly, I think.
Oh, I hope so. Hold on 1 second here. There we go. With that, one feed has started. Bill WD40, good to have you here, man. Thank you for coming on in and keeping us lubed up. Appreciate that. YTFP Chris, good to have you here. Magolan, thank you for dropping by. All right, Gary Wayne is our guest tonight. We're talking about the Genesis 6 conspiracy. Yes, we're going deep, deep, deep into the Bible tonight, everyone. Deep, deep, deep. Oh, yeah, we're going to have some fun, man. Going to have some fun. And Everybody at Scoreboard, be prepared to buy a plethora of drinks tonight because we're going deep into this, man. Deep. Dirty Fylth, good to have you here. Helena, you're looking stunning tonight. Thank you for dropping by. We have about 20 seconds, everyone. We're going to fire off our final tweet. Remind all of you that the Super Chat is open. Hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. Gemini, you're looking stunning tonight. Horror Realm, good to have you here. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we are here Monday through Friday every single week. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, has a bunch of features for you. Support us by joining the Space Travelers Club for $5 a month and doing a little shopping at the SOR Vault. Prairie Fire, thanks for coming on in. Here we go, everybody. Music's on. We're about to kick things off. Jacobo, thank you so much for the super chat. Kicking it off tonight. Here we go. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, especially if you're listening in on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Tonight we talk about one of the most controversial subjects we may have ever had on this show, about one of the most controversial books in the world. Centuries of debate has been going on to the authenticity of the Holy Bible. It is a sensitive topic that may not be for everyone, but hey, we're going to have some fun with this. We're going to woo it up. After all, it is one of the best paranormal books out there, is it not? Yes, Gary Wayne is a Christian contrarian who has maintained a lifelong love affair with biblical prophecy, history, and mythology. His extensive study has encompassed the Holy Bible and Gnostic scriptures, such as the Qur'an, the Bhagavad Gita, Gilgamesh, and other ancient epics, language, etymology, and secret society publications. Oh, we are in for a good one. If you go to Amazon right now, you can find Genesis 6. All right. It's called the Genesis 6 Conspiracy, how secret societies and the descendants of giants plan to enslave humankind. Yes, it's right there on Amazon. Gary Wayne, all the way from British Columbia, just south of me for about 4 hours. But you're calling from out east. How you doing tonight? Where did Gary go? Where'd he go? Did we get cut off already? Gary, is your mute on? Says we're connected. I wonder, because Skype started doing some stuff, weird stuff. Okay, we're going to reconnect with him. You know, after a power intro like that, to have things happen like that, that's okay. That's just where we are. That's just where we are. Well, let's get him back here. Hopefully we can. If not, we're going to try his cell phone. Sometimes Skype just acts like Skype. Just the way it is sometimes. I don't know why. Just the way it is. So the question is, and maybe you haven't thought of the thought of the day yet today, is, this doesn't seem to be working. I wonder if his computer died. I wonder. Let's check his old phone number here. If you haven't done the thought of the day yet on Facebook or Twitter, I highly suggest you do, because we're going to have a lot of fun tonight with that. Let's try him on his cell phone, and we'll see where it goes here. So we're going to try that. See if this will work. All right. This would kind of really suck if it didn't, you know. I'd be like sitting here thinking, what would we do? What would we do? There's always something we could talk about. We'd call somebody up, spring them on the air. Gary, can you hear us?
Hello?
Can you hear us?
I am. I can hear you.
I wonder what was happening there with you with the Skype. We were sounding so good before the break.
We just had a huge power hit. Everything's gone black. So
all right.
I'll be working in the dark.
Do you have enough power on your phone?
I do.
All right, good. Gary, I read a real great intro to you here. I read a real great intro, and unfortunately, you couldn't come in and gangbusters and kind of build it up a little bit. But, I want to say thank you for coming on the show. It's always good to get a fellow Canadian on here. And, the one thing that interests me about this topic is it could go in so many directions. And I guess we want to preface this by saying, it's not about trying to slam religion or the Holy Bible or to upset anybody who may take this a little bit offensively, because everything is offensive these days. It's about just learning at a secondary pace, is it not?
Yeah, I would say so. It's one of the largest books that are out there with, just an incredible amount of information. But as you were saying earlier, it's probably the most supernatural book that's ever been written. And, for those of us who are Christian, it's more than just a book. So, and in it's just so many controversial things, so many things that modern churches don't teach. And they just kind of stay away from it with a 10-foot pole. So even though there's some controversial things that are in the Bible for people who are outside the faith, it actually matches up very, very well with ancient history and other mythologies and other religions that are all telling similar types of stories. They just have a different lens to it. They would have a lens that would be, if you're from a polytheist religion like Buddhism, you would have a polytheist lens that you would look at it through. If you are more into an ancient alien mythos, well, then you're going to have that sort of lens. But once you get by whatever lens people are looking through, what they're looking at history and ancient history on and how it affects today, then you find that there's more things in common than not. So it's just a matter of, okay, let's just take a step back, let's look at it objectively, and let's just see how things sort of match up. And when you go back into ancient history, I mean, you are just opening Pandora's box of crazy things. So I thought maybe that would be a good preface for people in terms of looking at the Bible. And I am a contrarian. And what I mean by being a contrarian is that two things. Is that, number one, I don't accept anything that somebody says, or what somebody says something is written in a book or had heard about something. I tend to want to verify things myself. So when I talk about the Bible, I'm talking about everything that I've sort of verified with, and then how I link that up with my other passions, which are history and mythology. And then I went down a path for a long period of time just to learn about other religions so that I could better understand what their perspective was on the same types of topics.
Gary, when did you decide to look seriously into this subject?
I kind of backed my way into it. I was challenged when I was quite young and in about 1980 to read a book. And at that time, I was not in the church. I was not a Christian at that time. I was raised a Christian, but I had left, and we were sitting around having beers. And after a number of drinks, one of the people there says to me, if you've got the courage, there's a book we'd like you to read. And so, I'm at that age. I'm going, well, there's, I read a lot. There's not a whole bunch that's going to scare me. And I said, what's the book? And I wasn't sure quite what they were referring to. And it was a book called The Late Great Planet Earth by an author named Hal Lindsey, who was a Bible prophecy researcher and a prolific writer in the late 60s and 70s and early 80s. And so I read the book, and it's a prophecy book on the end time. And it literally scared the socks off of me. And so I wanted to verify, was that accurate, or was he manipulating Scripture as so many people do? And so I started to pull out a Bible, and then I started to look at some of the prophecies that he was talking about. And even though I didn't know, all the other prophecies, what I found is he wasn't manipulating it. He was just sort of laying it out there, and here's what he thinks would happen as we move into what is called the end time. So that just led me down to, well, now I need to figure out what else is going on here. And I decided I would start to log all the different prophecy narratives in the Bible. And along the way, I decided I would log other things of interest that I would pick up. And of course, you get very quickly into the Bible, and by chapter 6, in verses 1 through 4, and all of a sudden you're into the sons of God marrying the daughters of men and creating giants. And you just sort of go, wait a minute, what's that all about? And then I thought, you know what? That's not what I'm really trying to do here. That's interesting. I'll log it, but that doesn't really have my interest. And I'm not sure who the sons of God are at this point in time. Later come to learn that they're angels. But as I keep logging, as you get into the post-Diluvian period or after the flood, you have more giants come up and more giants. And they have names like Emim and Abim and Horim and Amalekim, and some of the terms, we'll call them with ice instead of the IM, but the IM would be a more accurate suffix onto it. But all of these different names of these giant tribes, and you're going, well, what the heck's that all about? And so I logged them down, and as I did all of that through, say, 15 years worth of work or so, I had it all into files, and I started to piece some of it together, and I thought, you know what? I want to write some books about prophecy, but I don't have a platform, and I've not published a book before, so I'm an unknown quantity. And so I thought, well, let's write a short book and see whether or not I can tell a story, make it interesting, and get people to buy it and actually read it. Trouble is, along the road to the Colosseum, so to speak, I decided I was going to add in my history and my mythology knowledge, because I saw so many different points of contact and commonalities that I thought it'd be very interesting to talk a little bit about whether it was Greek mythology or Egyptian mythology or Norse mythology, and sort of mix that in. And then from there, I thought, you know what? All of that ancient mythology and history is based on religious influence that was dominating those societies. And so I decided I then needed to learn more about those religions. And the more I learned about those religions, I realized they had developed alongside the polytheist religions mystery schools. And then when I dug in more into mystery schools, that led me into secret societies. And that rabbit hole took me down probably 10 years worth of research. And then I linked all of that together and published the book. So that's how I got into it. And this is my first book of more books that I want to write. I want to be a little bit more prophecy, and there is prophecy in this book. My publisher is okay with that, but he also wants me to do a sequel to this book because it's done very, very well for him.
Mm-hmm. The Bible is such a sensitive topic for many people, okay? There are literally well over 1 billion to 2 billion people who use it as a guidance for life, a believer in God, a believer in Christ, and whatever it may be, whatever their personal beliefs are, and that's great. I will come out and say, I am a believer of God, I am a believer of Jesus, and that's just who I am. Okay, but I try and keep my own personal opinion quite away from this show. That being said, okay, with a couple billion people on this planet who practice some sort of Christianity or Roman Catholic religion, this book is very, very, important to them, and for good reason. That being said, if I look at it from a humorous side, to woo it up a little bit, I would say that this is something that is probably one of the best paranormal books out there as well. And I don't mean that as an insult to the Holy Bible itself, but it's very paranormal. Gary?
It's the most supernatural book that's probably ever been written out there, and it has everything from miracles to prophecy to gods and angels and virgin births, and it's also got this mysterious race that has affected our history, and I make a good case in the book that they affect our history and what's going on today and what's going to happen in the future. So when we talk about being supernatural and paranormal, as you phrased it, there is no doubt about it. The things that happen in the Bible, they transcend and connect all of those different sort of fringe areas of paranormal activity and paranormal events. And it's one of the reasons why I find, the Bible so fascinating.
Gary Wayne is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Do you have a favorite paranormal story from the Bible? Because that is our thought of the day question today. Hello?
Sorry about that. I'm just organizing some light here as I'm working in the dark. So I got things organized now. And the most paranormal event that I see in the Bible that is the most puzzling is the one that happens in the time of the Exodus, and when Joshua makes the sun stand still. I mean, that just is something that is beyond understanding. It's beyond it doesn't fit into the laws of physics. And yet the Bible says that actually happened. And so to me, that's the most strangest event and one that transcends understanding as we know it as to how that could happen without some sort of cataclysmic event happening when either the earth stops rotating or the sun stops moving or the earth stops moving or a combination of that, and yet you don't have floods and earthquakes and catastrophic events. So to me, that's the most significant paranormal event that I can think of. But I also think, something like the flood, like the worldwide flood, if you think about that, I mean, that is a significant event as well.
Well, mine would be Samson and Delilah, and the only reason why I say that is because I recently cut 15 inches off my hair, and I'm hoping that I don't lose my powers over it. You know what I'm saying? And apparently I am on YouTube right now because it says it's not receiving enough video to maintain. I don't understand that, but it is what it is. Anyways, because when Delilah pulled out the scissors and started cutting his hair when he was sleeping, he lost all of his powers. The power of the hair is compelling, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, unless you're a Nazarite, I'm not so sure I'd be worried about that. But, Samson is such a great story. And, the cutting of the hair is like, although it breaks the law, it's one of those things that is like, is that really what was supplying the strength to Samson? But I guess it's that vow of faith that is that real connection and from God. And then you violate what he says, that sort of breaks that bond. And I think that's what happens. But what I find interesting is not just that Samson was such a strong, powerful individual, but yet he did this against one of the most powerful nations that ever walked the earth in terms of size and viciousness. This is a set of people that expropriated the southern part of the land of the covenant, the area that we would know as Palestine today, which Palestine derives from in terms of its name, as it comes down through its etymology through history. They expropriated this land from the Hittites and the Egyptians, and the two most powerful nations. And they came from an island of Crete, and they just took on the two greatest powers of that time and kept them at bay and set up their own country. And these weren't just your average humans. These were another mix of these giants that we're talking about, and hybrid Rephaim and human beings, and which one of the things that made them so powerful, and they controlled the iron industry at that time as well. So their weapons were beyond what the Egyptians and the Hittites would have had at that time, and they brought that technology with them from Crete. And it's why you see, when you see reliefs of the Philistines, is they have these Greek sort of helmets with these feathered hats, because that was their sort of history, even though biblically we would know the Philistines as migrating and intermarrying with those titans and giants and heroes of Crete, and then migrating again over to the Middle East.
Okay, so as we get into this, I mean, you have done a plethora of studies throughout your years in learning the Bible, reading it a few times, getting the ins and outs of all of it. You know, in your opinion, you know, what's your thoughts of the Bible? Is it a religious text that we should be following, or is it something that we should be taking with maybe a grain of salt?
Well, I would say it's greater than taking it with a grain of salt. I mean, the values and everything that is in the Bible are absolutely extraordinary in terms of how to live your life and how to have a stable country. So it starts with that, but it is one of those books that I would say transcends with its knowledge, transcends with its values, transcends with its promise, and transcends with its prophetic nature anything else that is on earth. So I would raise it up to a level written not by humans. It was certainly scribed by humans as that information was provided to them. So it is the Word of God. And so for me, I need to make sense of that, and I do. I don't find the Bible is in contradiction, and I don't find a lot of the arguments that people will use against the Bible actually holds water. And there are two components to the Bible when I say that. One is the Old Testament, and one is the New Testament. The Old Testament and the Old Torah law is written for a nation of priests that were created by God to deliver the Messiah who became Jesus. And so they were separated from all the other nations on the earth to be a nation of priests to serve a prophetic role through the Holy Covenant. And they could do that through either the blessings or the curses of the covenant. So they violated the covenant. We're going through the curses of that, but it will all be resolved in the end time, as prophecy tells us about. So this is a book about God and their people and how salvation will come, even though we have so many people that are out there that don't believe in the Bible, don't know much about the Bible as you get around the world. But it is a written record for human history, a record of what's going to happen in the end time, and it is a book that can lead you into salvation. And that's really, for me, what the whole thing is about.
Gary, I'm going to have to cut you off right there because we got to go to break here. Gary Wayne is our guest. Genesis 6 Conspiracy continues on Spaced Out Radio right after this. That was a quick half hour. That caught up to me.
Yeah, that went by in a hurry. Sorry for
that's all right.
The rough points with I got a light on here now as I was working away with the mute. So did you want to get into some of the more sensational stuff in the Bible, or contradictions, or like that? Okay.
Absolutely.
Sure. Okay.
We'll get into it. Hey, Space Without Distance.
We'll get into it. Yep.
Absolutely.
So did you really cut?
I did cut my hair. Actually, one of our listeners, Lisa, said, "Dave, you have a plethora of hair," and I no, she's battling cancer right now, and a few weeks ago, she actually came up to me. She's like, "Dave, you have a plethora of hair, and I want it for a wig." And I said, "Okay." She's like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I got my hair cut. And my hair right now is on its way to Arizona. It takes 7 business days. I sent it Monday, so it should be getting there by Monday or Tuesday next week. I'm pretty excited about that.
Wow.
Excuse me. Hi, Noble Patrick. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. That makes me feel good.
Good.
Yes. Lisa, you're not playing the drinking game. Sorry. Go ahead, Gary.
The sound is coming good over the phone. I've got a mic hooked up here, so.
Bart is asking you, both Gary and Wayne are places in Indiana. What is this guest trying to pull here? You can't be from BC.
Well, that's a good one. So, a lot of people say, are you trying to be like John Wayne or Bruce Wayne? And, I thought, you know what? That'd make a pretty good story if that's what I was after, but that's not really how the name was arrived at. So either way.
That is awesome. Just awesome. Ron J, you're 47. Why the fanboy GNR look still? Because GNR is the greatest band ever. They don't suck. The Ronald Benton, good to have you here. Maureen, Green with Envy? No, I'm just teasing. Hi, Maureen. You're beautiful. Love ya. And we got about 2 minutes and 20 seconds here.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, we got about 90 seconds. We leave Dave alone, chat. And SOR peeps say woo and plethora. We got 132 people in the bar, 23 in the back bar. Make me get them Uber, my friends. What in the plethora hell is going on over there? We need some tequila shots going around at Scoreboard. Especially you with the red hat on. I'm looking at you. Yeah, you know who you are. And that guy over there with the fantastic beard and the tattoos. You're doing great. Grab yourself a drink. I really can't see into the bar. I wish I could. I almost need a YouTube feed so I could see into the bar. No, it's not true, Bart. That's what my beard bag is for. Super Ron 13, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. All right, guys, final commercial. Thank you to Cat Chaser and Chocobo for helping us out with the super chat tonight. Really do appreciate that. And it is open. Thank you for everybody who's given us a thumbs up so far. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And here we go with the second half hour.
W. Hall, only on spacedoutradio.com.
All right, music's about to come on, Gary.
Okay.
Music is on. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, hanging out with all of you and apparently everybody at the Scoreboard Bar in northern Michigan. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate that. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website. Oh, yes, here we go. I want to say hello to everybody listening in on our terrestrial affiliates across North America as we kick off the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Gary Wayne is our guest tonight. We are getting into deep woo tonight, or religion. One of the two, whatever you want to call it, as Gary joins us to talk about the Holy Bible. Genesis 6 Conspiracy is his book. And it is called The Genesis 6 Conspiracy, How Secret Societies and the Descendants of Giants Plan to Enslave Humankind. Gary, welcome back to the show.
Well, glad to be back and very much enjoying the conversation tonight.
All right, let's get into your book here, because when you look at the title, it kind of makes it seem like we should have the X-Files in on this with the Genesis 6 Conspiracy. You knew this was going to ruffle some feathers, Gary.
Yeah, I did, and I wasn't sure as to how many feathers I was going to ruffle, but I ruffled pretty much all of the feathers you could possibly think of. And, you know, as I was going through the editing process, the editors were concerned that you're going to get everybody upset. You're going to get Christians upset. You're going to get seculars upset. You're going to get everybody mad at you. Nobody's going to buy your book. And I was trying to find a way to not have that sort of conflict. So, but it's controversial, and you know, I'm in contact with a lot of ministers, and what I quickly learned is that in seminary schools they're just not taught what's really in the Bible, and so I understand I'm going to be up against a sort of strong pushback in a lot of ways, but as people read the book, what I get more of for comments coming back is that for the first time, they actually understand the Old Testament. They understand the Bible better. And that's really what I was trying to do. But also I was trying to teach people about things that the churches don't want to teach. And so it's controversial in that aspect. And then you've got the secret society. So I have the Gnostics who are after me. I have the secret society that are after me. I have all sorts of people that, don't tend to don't tend to have the same sort of perspective as I have. But if I get a chance to dialogue with them, I can actually sort of bring it down to a level, okay, I understand where you're coming from. Here's where I'm coming from, and here's where things sort of match up. And we can agree to disagree on what the outcomes are going to be or what some of the motivations are going to be, but, you know, we're really talking about the same thing. We just have a different lens on it.
Okay, let's get into the secret societies part. What all formed there?
I'm not sure I understood the question. What about secret societies?
How did they form? What is out there? Why were they formed?
Well, you know, that's one of the most stunning things in the research that I found. And once I got into the rabbit hole of the secret society, so, you know, there's a book out there that I got my hands on, and I started to dig into some other Masonic history writers. But this individual's name is Albert Mackey, and I quote him a lot in the book. And he put together a lot of the history of Masonry into a book in about the 1850s, 1860s. And he's kind of one of the grand patriarchs of Freemasonry in the modern era. And his sources come from the oral traditions, not all of them, but a lot of them that were in the Polychronicon. So you have this whole book of history that goes back into prehistory. And what they say is this, that there was an individual named Enoch in the Bible, and he wrote a lot of scripture, and he was taught knowledge by the angels, or in other cultures, the gods. And he developed the 7 liberal sciences, or the 7 sacred sciences as we understand it today. And this is the knowledge that he learned from his father Cain. And so I'm not losing people here, there are 2 Enochs in Genesis. One is the first son of Cain, and one is the son of Jared. The son of Jared, one's the one who gets taken to heaven. This Enoch has a whole different other impact on history, the son of Cain. And he learns the knowledge from his father Adam, who learned knowledge in Eden from God. And this is what develops into the 7 sacred sciences. And he separates that knowledge into those disciplines. And then by the 6th generation, it merges with the angelic knowledge and the illicit knowledge from heaven at the time of the creation of the giants. Now, to protect this knowledge and to continue to develop, and when I say protect, they wanted to protect it from the lesser bloodlines, the poor, the mundane, so that this knowledge was kept for the elite, so the priest class and the ruling class and the nobility class. And so they created the mystical religions, and Enoch, son of Cain, is well known within Gnostic and secret society circles for creating the original sun worship religion before the flood, as well as creating hieroglyphs and developing this knowledge. And he also created mystery schools, which were the formation of the secret societies. So Freemasonry, and that they're not all that high up on the secret society hierarchy, but at depth level, or the 3rd degree York Rite or the 33rd degree Scottish Rite, they would have the start of the significant knowledge that's held within these mystery religions and secret societies. And they take on within the rituals that they have within the organizations, rituals that memorialize this history. And their greatest patriarchs are Enoch, son of Cain, Tubal-Cain, which is a descendant of Enoch and Cain, Nama, which is a sister to Tubal-Cain, along with Jubal and Jubal, who are the sons of Lamech. And again, there's 2 Lamechs in the Genesis genealogy, one in the Cain side and one in the Seth side. And they have a renaissance of this knowledge at the time that the Nephilim are being created. So you have this significant technology that's going on, and this is the genesis of the secret societies. And then they go on, which is absolutely amazing to me, is that they talk about how their religion that's created by Enoch, and of course the knowledge that he had crosses the flood. And as their legends go, they're written, this information is written down on 2 pillars. One is the legend of Enoch, and one is the legend of Lamech. Probably Lamech by the dating of it, because Lamech is closer to the time of the flood. And a fellow by the name of Hermes, after the flood, finds these 2 pillars and has directions to where all of the knowledge of the antediluvian world was written, was put in 9 vaults in 36,525 books and buried under the pyramids that were built from the technology and the knowledge that Enoch had developed. And Hermes takes this knowledge back to Babel and partners with Nimrod, who initiates 1,000 people into the craft, into the mystical knowledge. And they start to manifest with that knowledge the 5th science, which is geometry, and known within the craft as masonry. They put this into use to build Babel City and Babel Tower. And Nimrod, he writes the first constitution according to the Masons after the flood. And so he's the first Grand Master after the flood, and also holds a significant place in Masonic history. So you get this sort of melding together that I was talking about earlier, but they have a different perspective as to, who is good and who is evil. And that when we look at the Genesis account of Nimrod and Babel, we understand that Nimrod founds Babel after the flood. And he is associated with the mystery religion, but we're not told where the knowledge comes from to build Babel City and Babel Tower, because as the story goes, you have 8 in the flood that survived. And by third generation, so less than 100 years after the flood, you have Nimrod building this city. And it doesn't make any sense that if the world was to start anew, that Noah would be teaching all of the knowledge and all of the polytheist religions that took the antediluvian world into apocalypse. But somehow we understand that Nimrod pulled this off in the Bible, and we get a hint of this knowledge that was used when it says acting as one people with one language. There's nothing that they try to do that will be prevented from them doing. And I think this is hinting at that knowledge that is the knowledge of the ancients.
How does that play out into what is happening today? Are we still controlled by these secret societies? Are they still, a big part of how the world is run? I think of groups like the Skull and Bones or the Masons or something along those lines. What's your thoughts?
Oh, there's no doubt they have a major influence today. So when you're mentioning some of these sort of what I would call branch secret societies. So I would, if you want to imagine how the secret society organizational structure kind of works, is imagine a tree. And in polytheism, you have the world tree that joins heaven and earth. And so this secret society has this trunk that sort of goes up the middle of the tree. And then outside, you have the branches coming down like an evergreen tree. And along those branches, there'll be other types of organizations that are involved. And they'll branch into these center organizations that sort of shoot up the tree. So the higher you get into the secret society organizational structure, you're going to go sort of kind of like this on a short version of it. You have Freemasonry, which is kind of the introductory organization. You hit the first level of adept, which is the old third degree of the York Rite and equivalent to 33rd degree of the Scottish Rite. Above that is the Illuminati, and it's actually working in at the center. And then above that are the Rosicrucians. And what's interesting about the Rosicrucians is that they are 50% of the people coming up through that occult trunk. And then the upper 50% are initiated from childhood, who are the royal bloodlines. They are the purebloods, as they like to be called, the black nobility, or the Illuminati bloodlines, as people like to talk about them. But that's kind of undervaluing the true nature of the power of these people. So if I take that back into prehistory a little bit, just to connect a few more dots, when the giants are created in the sixth generation, in the time of Jared and Noah, these giants usurp the governments and the countries and the nations of the antediluvian world, because they're just so much bigger, stronger, and more powerful. And they're the offspring of the fallen angels, or the gods that are ruling the earth, or the watchers, as they're also known as, or the Grigori. And they partner with the fallen angels and the descendants of Cain to install this Enochian mysticism and develop this knowledge in the antediluvian world that parades it into the apocalypse. And underneath the kings is the king's relatives, cousins, uncles, aunts, and second cousins. And this is the nobility class. It's the feudal system that we would understand it. This is the system that crosses the flood, with giants showing up after the flood and merging with the Nimrod Babel or Babylon religion, as it's known in end-time prophecy, that have ruled the world and has remained intact. So if you want to understand secret societies, you need to understand the bloodlines, because at a certain level, you go above the Rosicrucians. These are all purebloods. And above the Rosicrucians would be the Committee of 300, and these are all representatives of the bloodline families. And above that, you're going to have the Council of 33. And then you're going to have the 13 families. So now that if you can imagine some of these other organizations, let's say the Club of Rome, they're going to intersect in the two halves of that secret society. And this secret society was created in the late 60s and have divided the world into 10 empires, blocks of nations, trading blocks, what have you, very similar to the setup in Revelation 13 and 17 with the 10 kings of the end time empire, Daniel 2, 7, and 8. So they have set up the world and with into 10 empires, and they're made up of purebloods and people coming up through the system, people of new money, people who want to intermarry so the next generations can be higher up in this hierarchy, this cult hierarchy. And so the lower level would report into the Rosicrucians, and the upper order would report into the Committee of 300. You would have the same thing if people aren't familiar with the Club of Rome, but in Canada, where you're from and I'm from, I actually grew up in the late 60s, and they had it on CBC News showing several times, and it just went blank. But you've got Pierre Trudeau, who was walking into a meeting with the Club of Rome when it was originally formed, which tells you about the bloodlines of the Trudeaus, and Pierre Trudeau marrying into the Sinclair family, who were the ones who started Freemasonry after the fall of the Knights Templar, but I'm going down another rabbit hole here.
Yeah.
So the Bilderbergers are probably the best known group where I can make this fit that everybody would be aware of. So you've got new money like Bill Gates
Gary.
and the Clintons, and all of these people in at the lower level. But you also have, the princes and the princesses and the royal families of European families also working there. They're the ones who would report up into the royal bloodlines of the higher orders. And so you would have some of these royal orders that would be orders like the Knights of the Seraphim or the Order of the Golden Fleece. And they're very, very powerful organizations that are controlling all of these other organizations, that shoot down that trunk. So I know that was a bit of a long rant, but I just wanted to sort of frame it into where they came from, who they are in terms of who's controlling it, and that these people will take their genealogies, the bloodlines, all the way back into prehistory.
What about the Scientologists? Where do they come into play with this?
Well, if you're talking about Scientology, they're kind of an offshoot Gnostic religion. They believe in the giants, and the giants are the good guys, and they got good knowledge from them and the gods, and they're trying to evolve into godhood through knowledge, which is part of that Gnostic religion where you have two pillars of immortality. One is knowledge and one is immortality. You have to have both in the physical world to achieve godhood. So Scientology, it's created in the late 40s, but he's a Mason, and he's just applying a lot of Gnostic doctrine in his own cult. So I think he splits away and he starts this cult of knowledge, but that's Gnosticism. Gnosis is, the Greek word for knowledge. And so it's just another splinter group of the same sort of Gnostic religion.
Latter-day Saints, same way?
They're a little more unique. They've got a blend of Christianity, and then they have a blend of Masonic organizational structure with that sort of ruling elite class. And then they have their own scripture that takes precedent. And the leader of the Latter-day Saints can actually change scripture and doctrine, which is, totally unique. So they have a strong sort of Christian sort of look at the lower levels, but at the higher levels, they look a little bit more secret society and Gnostic, and then some of those beliefs in terms of being gods in the future time tend to be more related to the Gnostic belief system. So they're rather unique, although, I know a lot of Mormons, and they're very, very, very good people. But unless they're at that adept level, they don't know what the leaders really believe.
Gary Wayne is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We have about 3.5 minutes before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. With all of the different groups, with all of the different religions, and the way everybody breaks everything down to their own personal belief, what exactly is the truth out there?
What exactly is the truth? Well,
Yeah.
I think what the truth is people are trying to figure out why we're here, right? And I think that's what the Bible tells us, unlike other religious books that are out there. It tells us what happened in prehistory, even before humankind. It tells us what happened throughout history, why it happened, and it tells us how and why we're here, and that we have the ability to be resurrected, to be like angels, to be like the gods, but not in the polytheist sense. This is in the spiritual sense or in the dimensional sense as in heaven, and that will be adopted that way as sons of God by Jesus who sacrificed for us. So it's a whole different process. But what's unique about the Bible is it gives you all of that information in a package that is sort of unlike anything else that's out there. And what is also amazing is that not only do you have, and I've touched on this a few times, you have all of these other belief systems that have a very similar telling of prehistory and also telling of what's going to happen in the new age or the age of Aquarius or whatever the other groups want to call the end time. And so they have a different play on this, and they're all promising something in the future world that's going to be different. And that's where you start to sort of see those things change. So one that sort of separate and become different. And I know a lot of people might think it's subtle, but I think it's actually significant. What polytheism is offering in this world is being a God in the physical world. What God is offering to us is something that transcends the physical world and works into all the different dimensions that are out there. So that's what I think that the truth is that we're told why we're here and why we have to live and go through the times that we are. But in the end, here's what's going to happen, and you're told the end from the beginning. Interesting.
So as we got about 30 seconds to go here before we have to go to break here at the top of the hour, is it people who are trying to translate this, or is there a hidden message that we haven't got yet?
From the Bible?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure of that. So again, there's two approaches in terms of religion and even within Christianity on how people tend to approach it. So there's what they call an interpretive approach, which means that you have to understand the allegories, you have to dig below the surface and find the hidden meanings. That's mysticism. That's the interpretive Gnostic approach, and there's a lot of influence of that in Christianity. The traditional method used by the Israelites in Judaism up, until the time of the dispersal of the Southern Kingdom in the time of Rome, 70 AD, is they used a literal approach. And the early Christian church, it became
Gary,
the Roman
let's continue.
Catholic
Let's
Church,
continue this when we get back from our break here. I apologize. It's a Canadian way to apologize, but we do got to jump out for a break here. Gary Wayne is our guest, talking the Bible, conspiracies around it, and so much more on Spaced Out Radio. I have a real problem sometimes with asking a big question with very little time. That is my fault. I apologize. Gary, I'm just going to run out for a couple seconds here. I got to take my dogs outside. I'll be right back, okay?
In the city. The menu starts at
no worries
$6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there. The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spicing up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is watching.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
No worries. It's good.
All right. There we go. 1 hour down already. That's fast, man.
Yeah, tends to fly by.
You having fun?
Oh yeah, always have fun doing interviews. They're always different. So yeah, so I'll finish that thought I was having, and I'll wind it up fairly quickly. Yeah, coming back from the break. Such a good question.
Perfect.
How's the chat liking things so far?
They're loving it. Keep it up, man. Keep it up.
If you want to have them ask questions out into the show, let them fire away. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We open up the questions in hour 2 here. So our audience will be able to will pick things up, man. They'll get it done.
Good. They usually have good questions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Our audience, we're lucky. They're pretty brilliant. So, all right, we got 30 seconds. All right. Thank you to everybody for giving us a thumbs up and tuning in tonight. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the bell and give us a thumbs up or down, however you feel we deserve. Also, thank you to Chocobo and Cat Chaser for kicking off the super chat tonight. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. I'm going to tell you right now, you can join the Space Travelers Club for $5 a month and support this show by doing a little shopping at the SOR Vault. Here we go with hour 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on
Music's
Twitter
on, everybody.
at Spaced Out Radio.
Here we go.
And on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Second hour of Spaced Out Radio is kicked off tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune us in. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. All of our archives are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Urbiculus. Urbiculus is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight we introduce author Gary Wayne. He's got a great book on Amazon called The Genesis 6 Conspiracy, How Secret Societies and the Descendants of Giants Plan to Enslave Humankind. And we're going to get deep into this here in hour 2. Gary, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you. So, and before the break, we were talking. You had asked the question about, is there things that you need to learn, to understand the Bible, or what's sort of beneath, the text that's in there. And we're talking about the interpretive approach, which would suggest that. But the literalist approach, which is the approach of the early Christian church and Israel and Judah, and understand there was 2 kingdoms there, even though they were one nation, but there were the northern and the southern kingdom. They had the literal approach, and that was the approach up to a couple hundred years ago, until we had this interpretive Gnostic sort of corruption come into Christianity, as I would call it, to say that you need to understand the mysteries, and you need to do that. You need to go through, this pyramid of degrees to understand what's going on. The Bible is written for everybody to understand. There's a couple of things that you need to understand to break down the allegory that is in the Bible. So that if you have an allegory that is talking about, in the end time in the book of Revelations, and people says, well, it can mean anything. Well, yeah, if you use just an interpretive approach to it. But if you define all of those allegories within the Bible, then you have an understanding as to what is being talked about in the meaning. So in end time, you have Babylon, and Babylon was not only an empire, but Babylon is rooted in the root word Babel, and that's the religion that this universal religion is based on, and that's the Enochian mysticism that crosses the flood. So that's what you have to have a caveat on, and if you don't understand prehistory, you cannot understand a lot of the context that happens as history rolls out in the Bible or into prophecy. And if you don't understand Genesis 6, and you don't understand that there were actually giants that were created that usurped all of the kingships both before and after the flood and established the elite noble class and acted as given the divine right to rule by their procreators, the rebellious angels, or the gods as they're understood in other religions, then you're not going to be able to understand what's going on in the Bible, both in history or in prophecy. So that's what you really need. If you really want to get into the greater meaning of it, then it starts to make some sense, because, people will read, Ezekiel 31 or Ezekiel 32 and say, none of this makes sense, and it seems like it's in contradiction. The trouble is they haven't been taught about prehistory and what they're talking about, whether or not it's in this case, the Assyrian that is a cedar tree in Eden, when there was only Adam and Eve. And if you don't understand what's going on with that, the Assyrian is an allegory for the end-time Antichrist, and also in this case, it's for Satan in the Garden of Eden, and understand that there's a prophecy for the time of Ezekiel that's going on, and then you have the end-time information that you need to glean out of that, then you're going to get confused and say, I have no idea what's going on.
I don't know what's going on. The Bible has so many twists and turns in it that I almost find it difficult. And yes, I have read it. So people will say, oh, well, you haven't read it. No, I have read it. Front to back. It was a difficult read. Probably the most difficult book I've ever read. But on the flip side of that, the messages that are in there, the messages that we're trying to pass on to be good people, to be, those who respect each other, love one another, help each other. I mean, those are the messages that we're supposed to take out of this, but on the flip side, there's a lot of strange creatures in the Bible, namely the Nephilim. And a lot of people out there, relating it to today, and this may turn up the woo a little bit, but a lot of people believe today that maybe the Nephilim over time eventually evolved into what we know today as Sasquatch. Gary.
There is a connection there, but I would look at that as Sasquatch as being a separate being. What we do know about Sasquatch or Bigfoot is it's intelligent, tends to live, away from people. It's associated with mountains and caves and possibly portals. And it's a hairy creature, and it's larger, on average than a human, but it's not giant-like. I would classify creatures like Sasquatch as a Nephilim kind of being, but a different kind of being. So that if you think about what happens in prehistory, there are fantastic beings that are created and documented, around the world, whether or not you're talking about the centaurs as an example, just as one of many. And, centaur would be more of a closer, I think, relationship to the Nephilim than the Sasquatch. The Sasquatch or the Bigfoot or the Yeti, with that worldwide mythos, has a history as old as the Nephilim and is on all continents, which is, again, leads to that sort of common legacy that's around the world. So we have to look at it from, even from a Christian perspective, like, well, it's probably something we need to take seriously, not just dismiss it. And so in prehistory, you have the gods not only producing the giants, but you have them producing all of these other types of creatures, large and small. You have the chimera, which is a common term for the transhumanism movement and things like that that's out there today. You also have, the little people, and you've got like Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, and you've got dwarves and elves and gnomes and leprechauns and again, you have these little people that have this common history on all continents around the world, except for Antarctica, and who knows what we'll find down the road in Antarctica. And they go back to the same organizational structure and history and type of creation. In this case, they're created again from the gods and again in a sexual copulation, but they have different roles, and somehow there's a different thing that's going on with these other beings that has them in a different size, a different look, and a different role subservient to what the Nephilim were. So when you have the creation of the Nephilim in the ancient world, you typically have that broken down into a priest class and into a warrior and a ruling class. And you have different kinds of Nephilim that are generally thought to have been created, and I'll give a couple examples of that. But I'll come back to that in a second. But Nephilim, they were also known to be quite hairy, so you have that commonality to it. And there's one kind of Rephaim, which is a post-Diluvian giant, as opposed to Nephilim, which would be before the flood giant. You have the Horim, or the Hori, that were cave dwellers, which a lot of people, from a Christian perspective in the fringe areas that I'm involved in, they'll try and connect that to the to Bigfoot. But Bigfoot and Sasquatch and all the different names for them around the world, they weren't this warrior class. They weren't the king class. They lived kind of separate. Whatever their roles are, whatever they were created for, it's different than the Nephilim. So there's a connection there in what I would call that greater Nephilim concept. And when we start looking at those kinds of individuals that are created that either were recreated again after the flood or somehow survived the flood with the technology that they had, it starts to, cross over into even into things like the alien mythos and the alien phenomena that we have today, where you have similar kinds of beings that are being discussed with similar kinds of technology. But I know that's another rabbit hole. So when I talked about different kinds of Nephilim, just so that I don't leave that out there hanging for people in the chat room, they're probably kind of buzzing. So the most common one are the serpent Nephilim. And the serpent ones had faces of serpents, and they had these big elongated skulls and high cheekbones and protruding chins and thin lips, and they were twice as wide as a human. That's probably a bit of an exaggeration. Let me put that down more exact. The human height to width ratio is generally 3 to 1. These ones were the stout ones, and as Isaiah talks about, and they were 2 to 1. So these were muscular, tall. I mean, not tall as in 7 or 8 feet. I mean, Goliath would have been, depending on whether or not you're using a common or a royal cubit, would be 9 feet 9 inches to 11 feet 3 inches. And King Og would have been somewhere between 12 to 15 feet tall. These things were monsters in terms of the muscularity and the dexterous that they had. And these ones that I'm talking about were the offspring of the sons of God, or the Watchers, as most people would understand them as, and these were the seraphim angels of Isaiah 6. Seraphim goes back to the Hebrew word seraph, and it means a fiery serpent angel. So these angels have the faces of a serpent. So now if you think about prehistory, and you think about a seraphim with a serpent face and as a six-winged god, you all of a sudden start to get images of dragon gods, because the flying serpent in antiquity is a dragon. So you have the dragon creation gods of China, or you have the serpent imagery that's all around the Middle East, or the Nagas gods of India, or the plumed or feathered serpent of the Quiché Maya and the Aztecs and the Incas. These are the same gods, and they produce the most common offspring. To get a look at what I'm talking about, this would be a diluted bloodline from, depending on which chronology you're going to use, 1200 to 1400 BC. Google up Akhenaten, or go see him at one of the King Tut traveling museums and look at that imagery. He is at least 1,000 years from the biblical chronology after the flood, and over 2,000 years from the Nephilim before the flood, and he has that imagery that I'm talking about still there. And he is part of that serpentine ruling class. Now, you also have a priest class that is in there as well, but this starts to explain why you have all of the serpentine imagery and dragon imagery around the thrones, the gods, and the coat of arms that the bloodlines have. The other kinds of Nephilim would be like the lion men, or the lion men of Gad, or the lion men of Moab, as they're talked about in the Bible, and they would come from lion characteristic of, looking gods. So Ariel, as you would get that out of Hebrew, and Ariel means lion. El is the angelic name on there. And you would have, different gods in the pantheons that would be a lion type of a figure, whether it's Nergal out of Sumeria or Mahaz out of Egypt, or Bast that the panther superhero was based on. And we have these blind men depicted on reliefs in the Middle East and Egypt. And then we get an accounting of them in the time of David. And they were mercenary warriors. So they're very similar, but not as high up in the pecking order as the Nephilim. You also have the Tengu, which are, picture the Anunnaki reliefs and pictures coming out of Sumeria with this bird head. Well, they have a very strong tradition, particularly in Southeast Asia and into Japan. And these are, their offspring look just like them. So they have these bird heads. And in Japan, you get the martial arts, and in China, you get the martial arts coming down as rooting in these Tengu Nephilim, as they were taught by the gods. Over in the Kisha Maya, you have the Xibalba, who are offspring of the gods. And you also have within the Xibalba, which is really interesting, is you have Camazotz. So that's Camazotz. If people want to Google it, bring it up, and you're going to get this imagery that is the suit that Batman wears. And this was the house of the Batmen, the house of the Bat Nephilim. That was an offshoot of the Xibalba. You also have the mythos of the Dogmen, which also has a history that goes back to, jackal gods like Anubis, for example, and other gods that produced offspring as well. So this is a very common knowledge in prehistory and recorded down through ancient secular history to verify these types of people. But I have documents on all these different groups if people want them. Just get a hold of me through my website. I'll send you the document. So if you want one on the Dogmen or on the Serpent Nephilim, just get a hold of me. I'll send that to you. But understand there was many different types of classifications of the creatures that the fallen angels or the gods of polytheism were creating in prehistory, and likely did again after the flood. Different angels would have done that, because the ones who would have violated the laws of creation would have gone to the abyss that is recorded in Revelation 9, the same evil ones that are going to be released in the end time. And Azazel, as he's recorded in First Enoch, would be the leader of those rebellious angels. And what's interesting, again, when you look at the different pantheons around the world, they're talking about the same gods. They have different vernacular names, but they have very, very similar attributes. So you can basically go, across the spectrum as you get into that second tier of gods, and you can have, Osiris and Zeus and the Baal and, gods like that, and link them up as being the same god. They just have different vernacular names.
The Nephilim are of a huge size, monsters compared to us, enlarged human beings that walk on two legs. Some have even been reported as almost being Cyclops type creatures. Others, we think of David and Goliath being a Nephilim. Where are the bodies to these creatures? Have we ever found any to prove their existence?
Oh, yeah, there's lots of history that's out there on these kinds of beings, and they've been collected down through history. And so I'll break that up a little bit. So, in the time of Josephus, he actually records that And Josephus, if people aren't all that familiar with him, he lived, just after around the time of Jesus and his death, and then afterwards, and then was captured by the Romans. And his job was to write the complete Judaic history, so it wouldn't be lost to history, because Judea was dispersed to the four winds in 70 AD with the destruction of Judah and Jerusalem. So he was to record that history. And he said even up to his time, these bones were still on display. And they had a completely different bioengineering than what humans had. And so people would travel from miles around just to view the size of these bones. Now, you have discoveries being made right up until, let's say, the 1950s, all throughout North America. And there's actually, again, if people want to get a hold of me, I'll send you the link. There's a link to old newspaper stories on discoveries of these giants with descriptions of their size, when they were found, who found them. And there's like hundreds of these news articles that recorded all of this. And they all have a similar story in North America, where they either go to a university and then to the Smithsonian, or directly to the Smithsonian, and then there are no records thereafter. You have this going on with the Royal Society and associated groups, which is kind of the parent group. Understanding James Smithson was part of the Royal Society, who left his money to start up the Smithsonian, and the Royal Society was created by Freemasons and Rosicrucians for specific purposes. A lot of good came out of that, but a lot of control came out of it as well. That's a different rabbit hole. But you have the Royal Society and similar groups in Europe doing the same things. And then you have the Vatican collecting all of this for the last 2,000 years, and it's all taken off the market and hidden. You can travel around places in the Mediterranean. They have some of these skulls and things in those museums. They just won't put them on display. They're part of the actual sort of inventory that they keep, but they just won't put them on display. There was a recent discovery of Peruvian skulls, of these elongated skulls and red hair in Peru, and a lot of study going on that. And that takes them back to the Scythia area, and some of them through Ireland and England through the Tuatha De Danann. You also have a strong history within First Nations in North America of these giants. And again, they're all red-haired giants. And you have these serpent mounds that are created that are interconnected with these giants. What's interesting about the elongated skull, it's part of the description that I provided earlier. What I didn't talk about was that they had pale white skin, and they tended to fall into two different groups of other distinct characteristics. One would be blonde hair and blue-eyed, from where the Aryans come from, and where the Nazis would take their mythos back to Thule, which is like an ancient Atlantis, and out of the Norse mythology, or the Germanic northern mythology of the Tuatha De Danann. And you have the red-hair, hazel-eyed giants that migrated over to Ireland and to England and to Scotland, whereas the blonde-haired, blue-eyed ones migrated north for the most part, up the Danube and into Russia, Germany, Sweden, and Norse, and where you get that sort of whole blonde-haired, blue-eyed Aryan mythos, where that comes from. So it's very interesting that the North American descriptions and skulls that they would have discovered were described as having red hair. The same type of description as what were discovered recently in Peru,
right? And
as what the descriptions were recorded as with these other giants around the Mediterranean, whether or not it's in Greek or Egyptian mythology.
I'm going to get you to hold on right there, Gary, because we got to step out. Gary Wayne, our guest tonight. Biblical stories, prophecies, secret societies, coming up next on Spaced Out Radio. There we go. And we're out. That one caught up on us again.
Yeah, I was on kind of a roll there, and it just flies by. I can't believe how fast the show can go by.
One second here. Thank you so much for the super chat, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. I really appreciate that. Thank you. That is awesome. I got a couple questions from our audience when we come back as well.
Awesome.
Two hours ahead where you are, right? Or just one? Just one right now.
Just one right now, yeah.
Power back on?
No, still in the dark.
Weird.
Wasn't even a storm out. I don't know why. I don't know why that would be out for so long.
All right. I just had to write down Nikki's question here. We got 2 minutes, my friend. We got a few questions coming up from the audience, too.
Good. What's the size of the chat group right now?
Right now, because it floats in and out, okay? Like some people come in, they come out. Yep. Right now, we're at about 127. So just to give you an example, the other night, we had an average of about 140 concurrent listeners. And when the show ended, that equaled out to like 980 people who had tuned in during it live, or 800, sure. 880. Yep. So that's kind of how it goes, right? Because certain people fall asleep, certain people head to bed, watch TV, watch a movie, go to work, yep. Make sweet love, whatever it may be, right? I can't beat that.
And then a lot of people just like to get the podcast and listen to it when they have a chance.
Yeah. You know, that's plus we're on. This show will air on 6 radio stations, 5 in the U.S., 1 in Canada.
Yeah, it's a little late for the Mississauga radio station, but hey, coast to coast is on.
Well, I hear you. I hear you.
Right? So
I hear you. But we love being on Saga 960. It's pretty awesome.
How long have you been doing this?
The show I've been doing since November 30th, 2014, I started it.
Oh, yeah. That's quite a few years now.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
And it sounds like you do it. It sounds like you do it, 5 days a week?
Yeah. It's a business.
That could be busy.
It's a business, not a very profitable one, but it's a business. Hold on one second here. We're gonna make this happen here. Music is on. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. The author of The Genesis 6 Conspiracy, How Secret Societies and the Descendants of Giants Plan to Enslave Humankind, continues tonight. Gary Wayne is with us. Gary, welcome back.
Well, happy to be back and looking forward to the next 30 minutes. So,
all right.
It'll be interesting.
We're going to start off with Nikki's question here. She is asking, Gary, what do you think regarding reptilians, whether they are biblical, alien, or otherwise?
Yeah. So there's actually a fairly, strong tradition of reptilian in the Bible. So we talked about the Nephilim, who have this reptilian look, and they would be, for me, at the higher level of the food chain. But there was also a type of being that was created before the Nephilim, and you have this serpent that's in Eden, and it's the Nakash. And this serpent is walking and talking and intelligent and the most craftiest and wisest animal, and it's the one who deceives Eve and Adam in the garden, and it's the one that gets punished afterwards. So it becomes this serpent look, with this serpent crawling on the ground. So one wonders whether or not we have this sort of connection to the reptilians that is a strong mythos that's out there, whether or not they're aliens or another race of beings that are living either through a changeling quality or just in disguise or living away from humans. So I look at the Nakash as being, a possibility that it's likely that the fallen angels, not likely, but it's possible that the fallen angels may have protected some of those beings and that they continue to reproduce and live under the earth, off the earth, whatever. You have to understand the angels that didn't go to the abyss, they still have, a lot of power in this world. And then you have another group. When I talked about the little ones, the elementals, that's part of 4 classifications in the fairy mythos. And I'll just quickly sort of run through it and get to what I'm talking about, to this one kind of elemental. But typically you have the proud fairies that come from another planet who rebelled, and those are the fallen angels, those are the gods. They mate with human females, and they create the physical demigods, which are the Nephilim, or in this case, in the fairy mythos, they create the fairy people, the the Tuatha De Danann giants who we just talked about. And then you have those giants who die, and it's their demon spirits, which is the 4th class, which is the banshees or the demon class. And then you have the little people, which is divided into 3 categories, and they're called elementals. But there's also another elemental that is a little bit different and isn't included into that 3 class, but it's a separate one, and they're called salamanders. And these are reptilian little people. So you have a strong tradition there as well. And how that links over in the Bible are the rudiments and the elements that's talked about in Galatians and I think it's the book of Ephesians or Colossians, one or the other. It slips my mind right now. But these are talked about as part of the hierarchy of the rebellious angel hierarchy, but they're at the lowest level of that hierarchy, just as the little people would be serving the Nephilim, serving the priest class, serving the gods. So that you have the gnomes who looked after the technology and the knowledge. And in fairy lore, you have fairies that come through portals in flying machines, and they kidnap people for a fortnight, as the Scottish tradition goes, and they do experiments on them. They're looking to replenish their gene therapy, and these are the gray neighbors, as they're called there, or the gray gnomes, and they have an identical description to the grays in the alien mythos. So you start thinking about that then with the salamander reptilian elementals, and again, we understand that the reptilians in the alien mythos are kind of above the grays, or at least, use their, strength or power or position to elevate them over the elementals. So we have a tradition that comes out of the Bible that talks about, that links into that category as well. So when I look at the possibility of the reptilian mythos, I don't know that they have that changeling quality that the gods did, because they could take any form that they wanted to in the physical world, because understand they're spiritual beings in a spiritual realm who come into the physical world and can take a form of their choosing. So for, let's say, Ike, who has that very strong following and done a lot of research on in his case for reptilians, they would have that changeling quality. And we don't have any evidence of that. But there is such a strong mythos down through the generations that I'm not one who sort of dismisses any of the possibilities. I just look for solutions and or sources as to where or how they could come about. And again, it's when you think about the connections to fairies and to Nephilim and to the gods and to the alien mythos that I talked about with the graves, and you understand that the fairy description would be a description that would be appropriate for a less technologically advanced society. And today we understand them as aliens. You start to see that they're talking about the same kinds of things from a whole bunch of different avenues around the world.
Okay. So when it comes to biblical speak, are there aliens in the Bible? Gary.
Technically, when you look in the Bible, I mean, angels are aliens. And so when we look at, let's say, the ancient alien theology that's on the History Channel, and, all the different writers like Van Doniken, all they're doing is talking the same prehistory, but they lower those aliens down to a highly technically advanced civilization as opposed to being God. So they're talking about the same kinds of people.
Are they space beings or are they heavenly, though?
I think they're heavenly, and so maybe I missed what the question was on the first go-around on that. So I would say, as we learn more about science, we're learning more about dimensions. And, that's what quantum computing is all about, and being able to work in different dimensions. So a different dimension, as it's understood in prehistory, would be occupying the same space that we have, but it's on a different wavelength. And that there are certain portals that you can enter through those different wavelengths. And that's where I think is more likely that the aliens that we see are coming from. Because, again, there's a strong record of them coming through portals from the oceans, coming through other different portals as the mythos goes, and then disappear through those portals as well. So I would look for those aliens to be coming from a different dimension as opposed to different planets. I think we're being, I think it's probably a deception, I guess is what I'm trying to say, that we have this Babylon 5 type of thing, or this Star Wars, or this Star Trek scenario where you have all of these aliens from around the universe. I think they're probably all part of sort of the localized part of the galaxy that we live in today, and they're just living in different dimensions. And that's probably where the abyss is located as well, because it's part of the underworld, but I think it's in a different dimension in the underworld as opposed to being in the physical earth.
All right, Super Ron has a question. He's asking, can the Nephilim be forgiven? Do they have souls?
Well, they have spirits, and that's what first Enoch talks about as the counterfeit spirit. So that's the spirit that is passed on from the angels, and that's why it was a violation against the laws of creation, because they're not allowed to do that. So it's called a counterfeit spirit, but it's still a spirit that was passed on, and the original spirit originates with God. So let's just be, as we follow that chain, I don't believe that anybody who is, whether it's a Nephilim or a descendant of the Nephilim, who are born the way they are without violating the laws themselves, are condemned. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, the first generation has to be condemned. Fine. But I also know that Jesus' sacrifice is strong enough to atone for all of the sins of the world. So unless they intentionally violated the laws of creation or violated the Holy Spirit, as Matthew talks about, and the book of Matthew talks about, that isn't forgiven, which I think that violation of creation is, then if a Nephilim was born and he accepted God at that time as his God, then he on faith would be saved through Jesus' sacrifice that came down the road. Because I think all people who believe in Jesus and believe in God are saved. I don't think physical characteristics that are inherited have any sort of dominion over that. Now, there's an Old Testament law, just as a caveat, that it says the sins of the father won't go past the fourth generation. So I leave open to the argument that maybe there's a certain amount of those first generations that says that they're not going to be saved. But I'm not convinced that applies to them. That applies to the priest of nations, Israel, is how I would look at that. But I do leave a bit of an avenue open there. And when you look in prehistory, you have good, let's take Greek mythology. You have good heroes, which are Nephilim, and you have evil ones. Hercules and Theseus and Perseus would have been considered good Nephilim, but they still worship the pantheon of God. So we do have cases where you have Nephilim who were doing good things for humankind. So if they were doing that and they also believed in God and rejected the pantheon of gods, then one would presume that they would be saved, as what Adam would be saved, as what Abraham would be saved, because all of these people lived before Jesus. And I think his atonement goes to salvation through that faith in God and faith in Jesus.
All right, let's get to Greco's question. Was there a queen of the dragons?
Oh, yeah. And you have, and this is best understood in the Sumerian mythology. So you have, in the parent god status, with the god An, you also have female goddesses, and the one that's of importance here is Tiamat. And Tiamat is very much like a Leviathan serpent type of creature, also known as Yam and Lotan and several other names. Every culture has a recollection of these two Leviathan type of creatures, and one is killed. So like Baal or Marduk would kill one, God in the Bible kills one, and there's one to be reckoned with in the end time. But the point is that she is described as a serpentine dragon type figure, and she is the matriarch from a goddess level, a female god, as the queen of the dragon bloodline. And then after Tiamat would come, Lilith would be close in behind. And again, that's why you have that association with the dragon bloodlines with a female character. But as that sort of develops into the allegory of the bloodlines of the royal family, you have a matriarchal bloodline that transforms away from the dragon imagery where it was rooted, even though Lawrence Gardner would call them dragon queens. Afterwards, they have the allegory of the matriarchal bloodline, that is the fairy bloodline or the owl bloodline, as the allegory goes. And the male bloodline, the patriarchal bloodline, as it's tracked through their genealogies, would be the dragon and the raven bloodline. And so if you understand that these allegories are mixed in with the bloodlines of the royal families around the world, not just the Western families, but there are these bloodlines around the world, and understand these allegories, you'll understand what they're talking about. So yes, there was a root queen of the dragon bloodline. And even though it's applied allegorically, you'll get queens, whether it's Nefertiti out of the Egyptian bloodline, will also be referred to not only as a fairy queen, but also as a dragon queen. But understand, it's about when they sort of get legalistic on the allegory for the bloodline. One is following a matriarchal bloodline, and one is following a patriarchal bloodline, because it was important that if you're going to start a new dynasty, you had to provide that new dynasty with an important ennobled dragon king, but you also had to have an extraordinarily ennobled matriarchal bloodline. And if you didn't have that, you couldn't start a new dynasty.
Well, I can tell you this, whatever it is, that creature sure describes my ex-mother-in-law. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Frightening, I guess.
Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea. All right. Let's get to Jenny's question. She is asking what your thoughts are on the origin of New Earth.
The origin of New Earth. So I'm not quite sure whether that's talking about in prehistory or in the future.
I have no idea either. I have no idea. I just ask questions, man. Maybe Jenny will give us a breakdown of that too.
She could. I mean, there's an understanding that in prehistory, the world was destroyed and then it was renewed. And so there was a time before day one in Genesis. And that's how you get so much of these other datings in other religions and what science is talking about that is older than the typical doctrine that's taught in Christianity. What they don't teach in Christianity is that Genesis 1:1 to 1:2 and how you understand then the days of creation after verse 2 can be translated in one of two ways. One is the standard dogma that we get, and the other is the other possible translation where the earth became void and formless. And this was caused by the angelic rebellion, or these fabulous weaponry that you would see in Hinduism and the Vedas and the different descriptions of these planet-destroying weapons by the gods. and that the earth was renewed, as Psalms 104:30 talks about, with the Spirit. When God sends the Spirit, the earth is renewed. So at some point after the earth was destroyed to its foundations, because the foundations were created to last forever, then you had, and what's really interesting as you get into the description of this within different verses in the Bible, is you have the water that was separated in days 1 through 6. But what had happened was, in the destruction of the earth, is that this water had collapsed down in on the earth and created the chaos. And that's why in the creation process you have the separation of the waters that's described in the renewal of the earth. And a lot of people will say, well, but Exodus 20:11 says the earth was created in 6 days, or the heavens and the earth. Well, the thing is that there are 3 definitions to heaven in ancient Hebrew. One is the firmament, which is, sort of below the ark that we can see. The second heaven is outside that in the rest of the universe. And then you have the heaven where God lives in, which is the spiritual realm. So you have to pick the right one. So what it's actually talking about, just as the firmament is called heaven in Genesis, it's actually talking about that heaven that is renewed in the 6 days of creation. So if that's what she's talking about, then you can translate Genesis 1 differently than the standard dogma, and I've got a document on that for people. And I did a 2.5-hour presentation that's on live stream at the True Legends May concert, and I walk people through that in great detail if people want to look that up. You have to pay for the DVD now, but you'll get that information. So talking about the new earth in prophecy, that happens at the end of the millennium. So after the end time, 1,000 years, and then the earth is destroyed, and you're going to have a new heavens and a new earth created, and we go off into eternity after that. So I think that's both ends of the spectrum that are talked about biblically.
All right. Gary Wayne is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We have another 2 minutes to go before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Brett is asking, what's the relationship between giants and copper? 90 seconds, Gary.
Well, copper is an allegory for the most part for seraphim, angels, or, these poisonous serpent snakes. And that's because they were these fire angels. The other relationship between Nephilim and copper is that there's this tradition that they were using copper to make weapons, but they were actually using iron, not copper. So I'm not comfortable in linking copper and bronze weaponry to the Nephilim. They would have been using better weapons than that.
Copper is kind of soft for weapons.
Yeah. Makes
sense.
And they've got examples. And they've got examples of iron all the way back to about 3000 BC. So, I mean, there was technology that was able to make iron weapons.
All right. We've got about 40 seconds here to go. What can we ask you? Well, let me ask you this. In regards to New Testament to Old Testament, is there a difference in the prophecy and the stories in regards to the way humanity should move forward, especially in this new millennium?
No, they actually blend perfectly together if you let it. So no, there's no difference in terms of the story. They provide different levels of detail, and some of them repeat the detail, but they're telling the same story. So everything directionally moves in the same direction with it.
All right, my friend, I'm going to get you to hold on here because we got Gary Wayne for another half hour on Spaced Out Radio. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, we're going to bring you the SOR News Wire. Oh, I had a hiccup there. And the thought of the Dave. Stay tuned. More Spaced Out Radio coming up without hiccups. Well, that was weird. That's a first.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I am going to I'm going to take a quick.
Yeah,
I'm going to take a quick washroom break, and I'll be right back.
I'll be right back too. Give me about 3 minutes.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spicing up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests on topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts.
Rock and roll, man. Rock and roll. And the bar is closed. All right, we got just under 2 minutes, my friend.
Okay.
1 minute. Thank you to Grendel, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, Cat Chaser, and Jacobo for the super chats tonight. I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much for the support. Great way to support this show is by hitting that subscribe button, the thumbs up or down, and the little bell ringy thingy. I think I figured that out what it does. Also, to go to our website, spacedoutradio.com, do a little shopping at the SOR Vault, and join the Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. James Stephen Emery, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Thank you for joining us tonight. All right, we're coming back here, guys. Hour 3. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. What a pleasure it is to broadcast to you live. Thank you so much for tuning us in. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Urbiculus is your password. Use your password wisely, Space Travelers, as a clam sets a password each and every night is what I'm trying to say, right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, has a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce our guest, Gary Wayne. His book, The Genesis 6 Conspiracy, How Secret Societies and the Descendants of Giants Plan to Enslave Humankind. And here we go with Gary. That book, by the way, can be found on Amazon. Welcome back, Mr. Wayne.
Well, happy to be back and on the last leg.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Question from our audience. This is James's question. Hagia Sophia and Constantinople in the prophecy. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I would need a little bit more detail on the Hagia Sophia. I mean, that's a huge, church that's in Turkey. So I need a little bit more information as to what the person is asking, because you don't have Sophia or Hagia Sophia that's specifically written in prophecy. So whether or not they're referring to Sophia as the mother goddess, if that's the aspect, and how does the mother goddess fit in with the end time, then I could address that. But I'm not quite sure what they're asking.
Well, we'll wait for an explanation on that. All right. With the Bible, there is, and let's focus on the New Testament here with Revelation, because this is the one part that I think scares a lot of people. All right. With end times, the four horsemen coming on, riding on through, probably playing some Pantera or something along those lines. All right. And the Satan coming down with the monster with the 7 heads. And, this is where really mankind, humankind, heaven, angels, God dropped the gloves with Beelzebub and his boys himself. Here we go. Tell me about it. Should we be afraid?
I'll be very, very afraid. Nobody should want to go through the end time. It is, at the end of it, I mean, nobody would be saved except for Jesus shortening the days and stepping in and finishing things off at the Battle of Armageddon. So, let me just sort of talk a little bit about what I'm referring to. You have what is known as the last 7 years, and that's Daniel 9:27, where you have this covenant that is negotiated by a relatively unknown individual who's going to become Antichrist 3.5 years later and be crowned in the temple. But before that, you even have all sorts of calamities and disasters that are going on in the fig tree generation that Jesus talks about. In the fig tree generation, I think starts in 1967. So I understand I'm answering the question that I think we're in that last generation. We don't know whether that's 70 years or 120 years, but I think we're in the fig tree generation. And that starts with what Jesus called the birth pangs. And that happens before the last 7 years and then the lead up. So birth pangs become more intense as you get closer to the end time. And so those birth pangs are wars, famine, pestilence, and earthquakes. And so these are going to get significantly worse. So if people are looking and saying, well, where are we in that prophetic line and where does COVID fit in? That would be probably, we're starting to see some of that birth pang starting to happen. And those four calamities, they kind of feed off of each other. That you can get, from wars, you can get famine and pestilence, and, earthquakes will cause the same sort of thing. So they kind of feed off of each other. So expect them to sort of happen in tandem a little bit more as we go. And disasters, whether or not it's, famine and pestilence and or huge earthquakes, can cause wars because of the instability that it's going to create. And as a lead up to the last 7 years, you are going to see, and if the last caller was referring to this, you're going to see prophets come out from the lady that rides the beast in Revelation. She is the mother goddess. She is the Mary apparition. She is Isis. She is Sophia. She is all of these different names of the same type of God that is representative of the end time religion. And, in Medjugorje, for example, the Mary apparition initiated 6 children, and they have dates that they're going to come out with their prophecies of doom to convert to this universal religion, the true religion, as we're going to call it, or this catastrophe is going to happen on the earth. And there are 10 of these that get progressively worse, that convinces everybody to convert over to this universal religion. And it starts in Christianity, starts in Roman Catholicism, where the Mary apparitions are most prominent, and it will spread to the rest of the world. Now, this is going to include disasters of wars and probably nuclear wars. And we're just in the birth pang. So by the time you get to the opening of the seals and the 4 horsemen that come out, you get the same disasters that are taking place. So you have, wars that are taking place. You have famine, you have pestilence, and you have this huge earthquake. And 25% of the people are going to be destroyed. And that's just the seals.
Well,
the
that's
trumpet,
pleasant.
as it gets stronger, as you get towards the midpoint, 33% of the people will be destroyed. The wrath bowls, as they come out in the last 3.5 years, would destroy everybody and everything, unless it was shortened, which it will be. For people who are opposing Babylon, in the lead up to the last 7 years and the negotiation of the covenant that starts the last 7 years, and then into the first 3.5 years, they are going to be persecuted, imprisoned, and killed. And it's called the great tribulation of the saints in Revelation 7. And then there's going to be even worse tribulation that affects the whole world in the last 3.5 years. And for people who are there who refuse to take the mark of the beast in the last 3.5 years, they're going to be tested through fire, or they're going to be beheaded and hunted down by the beast system. And so this is going to be a horrific period, whether or not you're Christian or otherwise, because of all of these disasters and calamities that are going on, which, will bring about economic collapse as well with these types of disasters, which is why people will work for a penny, which was in Jesus' time. Somebody would work for a penny for a day's worth of labor or a day's worth of food. So people are going to work just for their existence. I mean, you want to know what economic slavery comes on is you take a collapse of the whole economic system in the world and a shortage of food that's combined in all of this, which is why you have the famine aspect. And you've got a horrific time to be living through, and one should pray not to be part of the end times, but I fear that we're in that last generation.
Do you fear the microchips? Because that is a hot button conversation, or we hear about Elon Musk's Neuralink company wanting to make the brain partially AI. Is this a little bit of that danger zone that we're getting into? I mean, because I'll be honest with you, everything we're talking about these days really sounds right out of the movie of the Terminator series.
It does to a certain degree, and understand that these implants and these chips and things are going to merge together with other technologies. I mean, there's going to be things that need to be offered in terms of long life and long health, which I think is going to be part of that implant system. In Davos a couple of years ago, they were postulating and figuring out how they're going to bring this implant system through healthcare, that people are going to want this chip or this implant because it's going to have bots and it's going to be connected to an AI system, and it's going to automatically medicate and monitor the system and report all that information back, which will give you longer health. So expect that you're going to have the system introduced through the healthcare system if the current elites, when they're plotting, gets their way. But this is emerging into what they call the beast system in prophecy, that has to have an AI component, because if you remember earlier in the show, I was talking about this cult of knowledge, and that the two pillars of godhood is immortality and the other is knowledge. And so they need this AI system to provide the knowledge, and they need these quantum computing systems that can go into multiple universes, because they're looking for something that comes up in the betas. And just as all the scientists, or at least the originating scientists, would say that to understand quantum mechanics and quantum math and quantum computing, you have to understand the Upanishads and the Vedas, where they're talking about that whole science in a spiritual sense, and that's an Atma particle that they're looking for, or the Atman particle. Well, it's spelled two ways, A-T-H-A-N, also with an N on the end. And this is a particle that merges with an invisible particle that emerges with a physical particle, and in sort of a symbiotic relationship, and is the particle that contains the knowledge of the universe, and it spreads that knowledge through quantum entanglement. So understand this beast system, this mark of the beast, is all of this technology coming together that will also not permit people to buy or sell. And they will know whether or not you, by taking that mark, whether or not you're going to worship Antichrist and Satan. And it has the ability to probably track you down. So this is something that is still developing, and we have all of these sort of different lanes that are sort of have a trajectory of merging that will be that AI implant in the body that connects to everything and deliver the promises of the new age.
Gary Wayne is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Okay, so when it comes to Revelation and everything that is written in there, a lot of the things that we see in Revelation are written in ancient type text and then translated. How does it translate to today, considering the technological advancing that we are in, or advanced society we are in? You know, because are we at our own demise? Is it because of these groups? Is it because the Illuminati only wants a population of allegedly 500 million on this planet, which would mean that, I don't know, about 7.5 billion people would have to go away?
Yeah, there'd be a lot. And you're referring to the Georgia Guidestones that are, thought to be put up by, the Rosicrucians. And typically they like to say what they're planning to do in advance for some strange reason. So how is that relevant as it comes out of the ancient text? I think it is. I think what we have to keep in mind is that the language that is being used in the New Testament was copied down in Greek and then is translated into English, and doesn't always carry the full meaning, but they're describing things as they see them. And they're, doing their best, even though they were assisted by the Holy Spirit in recalling the visions or the prophecies or the details and writing them down. They are accurate. And so these things that they're talking about are going to happen. And I know I get a lot of people saying, well, but they're not going to be riding horses. And, you've got, these really crazy things that come out of the abyss in Revelation 9. I think as we see technology advance is that when you have that 200 million man war, and that also matches up with Joel 1 and 2 for the timing and the type of beast, when you see these strange creatures, and these are different than the ones that walk out of the abyss with Abaddon and Apollyon, and I'll come back to that in a second. These, I think, are weapons of war, but they are this merging of technology, merging of AI, merging of DNA manipulation, so that you can imagine these chimera type of animal beasts that are being developed for the art of war, and then you start to look at what they did in prehistory in terms of creating these crazy type of beasts in prehistory and beings, and you look at what we're able to do with DNA today. I think a lot of that in that 200 million man war, and as they're described, is that type of technology. Different than the scorpion beings that come out with Abaddon and Apollyon. I think that is actually a description and not trying to describe technology, because if you look at the description of what's in Revelation as to what a being that was created by another infamous goddess that we talked about earlier, Tiamat, she created a being that was designed to keep the lower gods in line. So I said that Tiamat and Anu are part of the parent gods. In the Sumerian pantheon, Anki and Enlil, for example, would be part of the second tier gods, which would be equivalent to like the Zeus and Poseidon of the Greek mythology, right, whereas Kronos would be the parent god, just for people as a frame of reference. She creates what they call the Akraba Balu to keep the lower gods in line and to guard the entrances to the underworld. But when Tiamat is killed, they guard the sun temples and things after that. And these, not only in the Sumerian mythology, but also in the Tisha Maya, they have the power to destroy the world. And they're led by Abaddon, Apollyon, which both mean destroyer in Hebrew and Greek, respectfully, who I think is actually Azazel, who is the leader of the host of the rebellious angels and the scapegoat, who is, scapegoated for all of the crimes and most of the blame put on Azazel. But he's the one who teaches war, the art of war, making weapons to humans and to Nephilim in the antediluvian time. So this would be a perfect one to lead these scorpion beings out of the abyss in the end time. And that happens towards the midpoint of the last 7 years. And these beings are going to sting people with their tail, and people are going to want to die, but they won't be able to die for 5 months. So it sort of goes back to, you really want to go through any of that. And the description that is in the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Enuma Elish, as I recall, are identical to the descriptions that are these beings that are coming out of the abyss. And I've got a great document on this, and I've got pictures of the Krabomalu, and they're also called the Gerdabalu as well. Different transliteration out of Mesopotamia, different language for the same beings, but I've got pictures that go along with that commentary that are just absolutely fascinating to look at. With some inscriptions,
right?
So they're not actual photographs, but they're photographs of inscriptions.
Gary, we've only got about 3 minutes left with you tonight, and this is a show that has flown on by. If you had any message, breaking down the Bible for people who may be on the fence, unsure, or maybe for the believers out there who are still trying to find their own reasoning for what the Bible means to them, what's your statement?
Well, the first statement, become a contrarian or a Berean and verify everything yourself, and understand that churches today don't teach prehistory, and they don't want to talk about giants. They don't want to talk about how the giants were around in the Exodus. They don't want to have anything to do with that, and they don't want to talk about prophecy. So you're not going to learn what you need to learn from them. You're going to have to read the Bible yourself, and whether or not that's a modern English translation or a King James version, but you're going to have to connect those dots and read it yourself to get the true meaning out of it. That goes beyond the moral values that they teach in the churches, so that you are not deceived. The thing is that if you are going to be deceived in the end time, and even the elect will be deceived if that were possible, according to what Jesus said, and they will be deceived, we can't rely on the church leaders because they're not preparing us for this. You need to learn it yourself, and or start to find people who are putting out information that you can verify yourself, and always verify it yourself, whether or not I say it, or somebody else says something. You need to verify it yourself, but you need to understand these things in terms to understand the Bible as a whole. If you don't understand Genesis 6, you are missing 70% of what happens in the Bible.
Well, kind of makes you want to go read the good book once again. That's for sure. You've given us food for thought here, my friend. Where can everybody find your book?
You can go to my website. That's www.genesis6conspiracy.com. That's the number 6, Genesis6conspiracy.com. And on there, I've got a generous excerpt of all 98 chapters so you can get a good feel for the book. And if that interests you, you can click over to the Buy Now section, and you can buy a signed copy from me directly. Or you can link over to the Kindle version from there to Amazon, or to Amazon.ca or Amazon.com, or to Barnes & Noble. It's sold on most online bookstores in Canada. It is a listed book by chapters and indigos. Not all of the stores carried on the shelf, but they can order it in for you. And if you wanted to support your local bookstore, no matter where in North America, my book is distributed by Bookmasters out of Pennsylvania, so they can order the book in and you can support your local bookstore if that's what you want to do.
Gary, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. What a learning lesson and what a pleasure, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me, and hopefully we've raised a little bit of curiosity tonight, because that's what it's all about, is getting some information out there and having people dig a little bit deeper into some of the topics that we're talking about.
I think that's exactly what we did. Gary Wayne, everybody, thank you so much for tuning us in. But hey, the show must go on. as we continue right around the corner with the SOR Newswire and the thought of the day. Stay tuned. More Spaced Out Radio coming up. Good job, Gary. We'll give you a clap for that. We'll give you a clap. Good Canadian kid. Good Canadian kid. Doff your cap, buddy. Take off the hockey helmet and just, give yourself a bow. Good job. Thank you so much. People loved you in the chat rooms, man. They loved you. Thank you.
Perfect. That was a lot of fun.
Well, I thank Corns, the booking guy, for getting this done, man, because without him, I'm a lost man. I'm a lost soul. I'm a wandering vagabond on the air of radio. So thank you to Corey for introducing us, and this was a great show. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, if you ever want to call me back, that's fine. We can go in depth just on giants or on secret societies in detail, or anything that you want to talk about. You can see we covered a lot of different kinds of topics. So
let's do this. We will make it happen. Corns, the booking guy, is hearing this, so we'll make sure it happens. Thank you so much, bud. Take care.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night. He was good stuff. Great detail. Great detail. Fantastic. Keep your stick on the ice. That's right. You'll miss every shot and every opportunity 100% of the time if your stick is not on the ice. It's true. It's totally true. Excuse me. Sometimes I just don't know what to say. So I literally sit here quiet, trying to figure out something to say. So I just sit here. I don't know what to say. So much pressure. I'll sip of water, too. Hey guys, just after this show at 1 a.m. Pacific, Third Phase of Moon will be releasing their next video, and yours truly, who is losing his voice, as this seems to happen every Wednesday night. I don't know why it's Wednesday. Always happens Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday I feel fine. Anyways, I'm on their next video. So if you want to check that out on YouTube, go to Third Phase of Moon, 1 a.m. I don't know if I'm going to be there or not. I'm going to try to. I'm pretty tired. And I get a day off tomorrow. And I plan on sleeping in tomorrow. Well, till I don't know, 8:30. Mm-hmm. So go check them on out and go from there. Yeah, Third Phase of Moon, 1 a.m. Pacific. Go join their chat room. It's fun. It's fun. Chat is fun. We got like under a minute. Say my name. Jessica Lee. Was that for me? Was I supposed to say it? I don't know. But I did. This is true, Corin's the booking guy. They did not want you nude. As impressive as your mustache is, the third nipple was a little bit too blazing on them. And the web feet.
Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude
Third phase of moon
out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience has proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
All right. Let's do this little radio thing. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. I want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. On Instagram, you can follow us at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Twitter, follow us at Spaced Out Radio. Speaking of the news, oh yeah, there it is. It's that time. And this is how it ends. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the glory hole. Yeah, you heard me right. British Columbia health officials are recommending an age-old, occasionally cutting-edge tactic for sex during the coronavirus pandemic. Glory holes! The BC Centre for Disease Control added new recommendations for social distance sex to its COVID-19 website this week. One of those tips was to try and use a glory hole, a hole cut into a wall that is only large enough for a penis to slip through. Yes, anytime I get to use the word penis on this show, it is rare, but it is worth a thumbs up. Glory holes are typically used for anonymous oral or penetrative sex, according to Urban Dictionary, but they're also an excellent way to limit physical contact during intercourse, says the BC CDC. Use barriers like walls, example, glory holes that allow for sexual contact but prevent close face-to-face contact. The health organization writes on its website, "You can't make this up. They've been watching too much Pornhub during COVID." The recommendation is just a tip, or is it just the tip, and not a firm rule, according to the website. Yeah, the site includes many other tips for reducing your risk of spreading coronavirus during sex, such as wearing a mask because it's great to make out with cloth in front of you. Refrain from kissing. Oh, well, I guess that solves that. Using a condom. Yes, that always works. Everybody should use a condom. And washing your body with soap and water after. Health officials, never during though, because no, never during. Health officials across the country have echoed most of that advice, although they haven't said anything about glory holes. New York City health officials hinted at using glory holes in a recent 3-page document without specifically naming them. Be creative with the sexual positions and physical barriers like walls that allow sexual contact while preventing close face-to-face contact, the document said. Oh yeah, we're getting into it. This is so Pornhub right now. The BC guidelines recommend skipping sex if you feel sick. They also, who wants to have sex while you're sick? It's terrible. They also recommend taking your desires. Oh my goodness. Somebody actually wrote this. Listen to this. They also recommend taking your own desires into your own hands if you're worried about corona infection. Oh my goodness. You are your safest sex partner, the BC CDC says. Masturbating by yourself, in brackets, solo sex, will not spread COVID-19. Your next safest partner is someone you live with or a person who has only had contact with you and no one else. Bonnie Henry, the province's top doctor, echoed the advice. This is not the time to do rapid serial sexing, okay? Well, she used dating, but sexing sounds so much more fun. Anyways, so pick somebody, see if it works, then take your time. In other words, make sweet love, throw on a little bit of Barry White, make sure there's a fireplace going, even though it's summertime. You got to set the mood, okay? Set the mood. Other social distance sexual pursuits include masturbating in the same room as a partner or engaging in virtual sex. Twitter erupted with jokes on this. Yeah, here's one. Use barriers like walls. Oh, yeah. Available at Lee Valley is a drywall drill. Let's see. What did Morale Solander say? 2020, the year when glory holes became a standard household equipment. Oh, that's good. so good. Yeah. Glory holes, people. Steel Panther has a great song about the glory hole, by the way. You might want to check it out on YouTube. You could use the 18 plus version or the non-18 plus version. A UFO film flying over Codown Village was not a weather balloon, the Met Office has said. A woman who captured footage of the object over Annalong on July 8th passed it to the North Ireland UFO Society, which is now investigating. The round and gray UFO moved through the sky from north to south at a time when wind in the area was blowing from the east, suggesting it could not have been a weather balloon. In response to NAUFO's query, the Met Office said it doubted the object was a radiosonde, the device carrying such balloons or by such balloons. A radiosonde was launched from Castor Bay, on July 8th, the statement read, but at 1:15, the radiosonde traveled almost due east to a position of 54.423, minus 5.023 at an altitude of just under 18 kilometers. Google Maps indicates that this is about 20 kilometers off the coast of the Irish Sea and about 70 kilometers from the filming location. The balloon path stayed significantly to the north of the filming throughout the ascent. Who cares about the balloon? Let's get to some aliens here. NAUFO's founder, Chris McMurray, says that he received a report of a similar sighting from a woman in Kilkeel, about 5 miles from Annalong. Who names these towns? This is fantastic. A few weeks beforehand, he added that this group intended to visit the area, which has a record of strange phenomena, next month. So in other words, they're broke, they can't get off work, and they got no gas money to get to this town to investigate. That's the truth of it. When they say they are taking that long, it doesn't matter whether it's a paranormal team, UFO team, or a Bigfoot team, it's because they are broke. Yes. They are broke. He added that his group intended to visit the area, which, I already read that. The incidents were not the only reports of unexplained aerial activity this year. Back on May 8th, Elena Draven recorded a bright object moving in the air over her home. It came after other reports of lights around the village. They got aliens, people. They got aliens. In February, filming the BBC drama Bloodlands, starring Jimmy Nesbitt, because we all know Jimmy. He's got the blue check mark on Twitter. Anyways, apparently there was a UFO alert around there too while they were doing this. Lots of UFOs. Ireland's wasted at the bars while social distancing. It's a good time over there. Let's just go scrap. Let's end the night with a good fight. Okay. I hate this guy. I do. I think this is one of the scummiest things that anybody can do. Okay. Yeah. I don't like him. I'm never buying his book. You know why? He's a pompous jerk. Hear me out on this. Okay. Author Mark Dawson has lost his top 10 position in the Sunday Times bestseller charts for his thriller, The Cleaner, after revealing that he bought 400 copies of his own book to get a higher position. Book sales monitor Nielsen Bookscan began investigating after Dawson revealed on his podcast, The Self-Publishing Show, that he had placed an order for 400 hardback copies of The Cleaner with a children's bookshop in Salisbury at a cost of £3,600. Dawson said he was motivated to do this after seeing he was in 13th spot on the Nielsen's midweek chart, and that he contacted readers overseas to see if they would purchase the novel from him if he bought the books. The purchase meant the novel, published by independent press Welbeck, moved up to 8th place in the Sunday Times hardback fiction list. Dawson's actions were criticized by other authors for gaming the system. Nielsen told the bookseller that after initially believing that the sales had been part of a virtual book signing, it had concluded that they did not meet its criteria. It will now recalculate the charts for the week ending on July 4th, and the Sunday Times will also issue a correction. With current circumstances calling for alternative ways to achieve sales, we are having to monitor and judge many cases on an individual basis, and we apologize that on this occasion we misunderstood the intentions of this sales transaction. Welbeck, by the way, said, while it was disrespectful, Nielsen's decision to issue a correction to the book's chart placement, if this was anyway a violation in terms. Now he's denying this. What a jerk. I want to call him major expletives right now. This guy's a dirtbag, okay? Scummy, very scummy. Doesn't do anything wrong by buying 400 of his own books so he can egotistically get into the top 10. Throw a shoe at him. Let's go old school here. All right? Anyways, he goes on to say, Dawson's actions were purely in response to requests for copies from his fans around the world. He has no fans. He bought them himself. Guaranteed he still has the books. On Twitter, Dawson wrote, if I was intent on gaming the system, I would have bought 10,000 copies, sat on them forever, and bid number one. I wouldn't have discussed it on a popular podcast either. No, you got caught because you were being an idiot. You know? What a jerk. I'm fired up now. I'm fired. This reminds me of that idiot on Twitter who went into a Buddhist temple for meditation for 75 days. All right? When the coronavirus was around, and then came out after 75 days, shocked that the coronavirus was around. I want to shake that guy too. Anyways, calm it down, Dave. Calm it down. A drink mix company is offering a bailout for entrepreneurs in seasonal industry hard hit by the coronavirus, the lemonade stand. Country Time announced the littlest bailout program will distribute $100 checks to kids under the age of 14 whose lemonade stand plans were foiled by COVID-19. This is a great story. You know, this is a story I need after the last one with that wingnut author. Not even going to name him. Okay, so basically what they're saying is we know this will be a rough summer for lemonade stands, and if the big guys are getting bailed out, why shouldn't we help the littlest entrepreneurs get the same treatment? Would-be lemonade stand entrepreneurs are being asked to submit an essay about how they would spend their bailout money, along with a photo of a sign they would have used for their abortive stands. Applications for bailout checks are being accepted through August 14th. Good job. Good job, Country Time. Seriously. And you know what? I'm one of those guys where every time I see one of those lemonade stands or a juice stand, I go. You know, it's not only a big thrill for a kid, it is one of the best dollars you could ever spend. Watching that child, you know, pour with their shaking hands into a plastic cup, and you don't know if anybody else has actually drank out of that cup. You're only hoping, okay? And then you throw them $1 and then you tip them, you know, and the smile on their face with their gap teeth because their big teeth are just coming in. I think it's wonderful. I love that. Everybody should do that. If you're one of these people who actually drives by a lemonade stand and doesn't get anything from a kid, you know, I'm going to drop an elbow on you. Just plain and simple. If I see you, I'm going to drop an elbow on you. Give the kid $1, grab yourself a drink, have a good time. And for all those illegal stands out there, okay, that, you know, they get busted by the bylaw enforcement officers and all this kind of stuff. All right. I hope there's illegal stands going up there, but use clean glasses, wear a mask and gloves, please. And make sure your juice is cold because I don't like the warm juice. All right, moving on. Stop throwing away pizza boxes. Domino's is pushing for its customers to start recycling. Apparently, a significant number of people think that these cardboard boxes aren't actually recyclable, and Domino's wants to change that. Yeah, they got a new website for it. I mean, this is how stupid people are. It's cardboard. It is recyclable. So Domino's actually had to waste money creating recycling.dominos.com. Imagine that. The site contains facts about recycling and information. It's 20, what year is this? It's 2020. Okay? If you haven't figured out recycling and blue bags by now, there is no hope for you. No hope. None. None. Oh my God. I got to get rid of this story. I have to. And because of my quick count there, I actually erased a story. Son of a gun. Now I got to go back and find Shirk. Where is it? I'm getting it here. Don't worry about it. I'm getting it. Where is it here, Shirky? Shirky poo. By the way, anybody who calls Captain Shirk on her personal Facebook page, Shirky poo, if you could find her, okay, you know, I'll give you a shout out on the air. Shirky poo. Firefighters in New York came to the rescue of two people when their inflatable swan float was carried away by fast-moving currents and ended up in the path of marine traffic. The New York City Fire Department officials received a report of multiple people in the water near East 55th Street in Manhattan, and the FDNY Marine Unit had arrived to find two people in a swan floating away because the river in the Hudson has a little bit of a strong current right now. Yeah, the inflatable swan and its passengers were okay, but they were causing a little bit of strife for marine traffic. The people were rescued safely, examined by EMS personnel, did not require further attention. FDNY urges New Yorkers to always partake in precautions when swimming or entering the water surrounding the city. Only enter the water where swimming is permitted and where lifeguards are on duty. All right, let's go to New Jersey. A New Jersey grocery store is trying to find a new home for a rare orange lobster to make sure it doesn't end up on the dinner plate. Well, it ain't coming to my house then. Employees at the Stop and Shop store in Toms River said they noticed one of the lobsters in a recent shipment had an orange coloration similar to that of its cooked brethren, but it's still alive and well. The grocery chain said the lobster is not for sale, and officials are trying to find a suitable home for the rare crustacean. A spokeswoman for the store said the store has been in contact with Rutgers Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources about potentially taking the lobster. Experts said the lobster colors is extremely uncommon, but exactly how rare is unclear. Unofficial estimates are in the range of 1 in a million, although I have not seen a scientific assessment of the actual proportion they comprise of the wild population, said Rick Whale, the director of Lobster Institute at the University of Maine. All right, let's do this thing. Marty, beautiful clown tonight. Beautiful clown. I hate that author. Hate him. Hey, Shirk, I got to skip the Guinness World Record tonight. Why? Because I could. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time as I ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air. Why? Because guess what? I actually do love the audience participation around here. God, that guy pisses me off. Oh, man. All right, question. What's the best paranormal story in the Bible? I went with Samson earlier. Melissa, the one where the Scooby Gang meets Jesus and they find out that the ghosts weren't actually ghosts, and then the old dude says, I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids. Can I tell you, or can you tell I haven't read the Bible, she says. No kidding. Vicky, when Jesus commanded a demon to leave a man and enter a pig, the pig ran off a cliff. Oh, poor pig. Coral, So many to choose, but my fave is Ezekiel's wheel. I'm thinking of walking up the ladder to heaven. Was it abduction? Uncle Dale, on the 5th month, it was the 5th year of the exile of King Jehoiachin. 3, the word of the Lord came to Ezekiel, the priest and the son of Buzi, or is it Buzzy, by the Kabar River in the land of the Babylonians. Hey, I got that one right. Yeah. That was too long to read, Uncle Dale. You literally copied the passage. I appreciate that, though. Stories of Leviathan, Nephilim, and giants. Of course, there's necromancy and demons as well, says the crypto guru Ronald Murphy. Jerry, it's got to be about Ezekiel's wheel. It's all about a UFO abduction. Bruce, love the story about the Star of Bethlehem. Stephen, the Bible is a story. I have heard Disney are going to get the rights for it. The Gavinator, not a story per se. The verse of the Bible is seemingly an admission by Paul of the paranormal. Ephesians 6:12. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, and against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Okay. Alex Mistretta, when he puts a comment, he never has a shirt on. Never. Says it's hard to beat the Ark of the Covenant for intriguing possibilities. I don't know if it really falls under paranormal, but there's no denying the fact that the effects attributed to the Ark sound very much like radiation poisoning, ergo implying that something else besides the standard Christian mythology or allegory is involved. All right, Davey, never mind all this wheels of fire in the sky stuff. We still get that going on today. But water into wine? Seriously, where do I sign up for this? Oh, Davey, we're going for that. Gabe, the Catholic Old Testament, the omitted book of Tobit, probably the most obscure book in the Bible. It didn't feel like it belonged in the Old Testament. The lessons learned in that book were great. All right, Patricia, so many, especially Revelations. Ron, the demon into the pig, then chucking it off a cliff one. That's a good one. Renee, I would say the resurrection of Jesus, as told by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, angels showing up, and then Jesus after the crucifixion appears to Mary Magdalene, after 3 days after his death. Oh, that's a good one. And we got to end it right there because we're running out of time, literally. We are. Damn author. Oh, that guy bugs me. And that Daniel Thorson. Is anything happening with Corona? Oh my gosh. You Momo. Anyways, let's cancel this. Let's get out of here. It's that time. Thanks to everybody for participating in the Thought of the Day. Captain Shirk, thanks for riling me up in the news. Shirky poo. And of course, to Gary Wayne for coming on as our guest. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be, and in our chat rooms on Spreaker, YouTube, LGAB, Rev Radio, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club at our website, and the Snarkers and Snarkheads hanging out on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Remember, everybody, the Woo train may have docked for the night, but tomorrow we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, guess what? We got room for them, too. Good night. That's a good show. Yeah, everybody. Woo! Boom. That's good stuff. Good stuff. Good wholesome stuff right there. That author just pisses me right off. What a dickhead. That Daniel Thorson, too. Hey, Chew, thank you so much. Glad that you caught us live, man. Appreciate that. Thank you. And Teresa, gorgeous Teresa for the super chat. That's really nice. Thank you, guys. Very unexpected. Fuck, is it hot in here? I'm like sweating. Oh. Yeah, everybody head over to Captain Shirk's Facebook page and say, Shirky poo. oh, please do this. If you could do me one favor tonight, give her a Shirky poo. Okay? Joe's Bane started it off. Oh, the kid for the Lambo Moonstone. Yes, that pisses me off too. That little fat bastard. Uh-huh. What did April, May, June send me? Oh, weird lights in the forest there. That's strange. Very strange. All right, let's download this show. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. All right, guys, I'm just going to go cool down. It is hot in here. I'll be right back, guys. So just bear with me. We'll make this shit happen soon. I'll be right back. Shirky poo. Look for Gail Shirk on Facebook. Shirky poo. Holy crap, is it hot in here. All right, let's open up that. Watch the moths fly in. I don't care right now. It is way too damn hot in here. All right. I actually left Captain Shirk a voicemail saying, Shirky poo. Because I think that's funny. I do. You may not, but I do. All right. Come on, who else has gone to Captain Shirk's website? You got to do that. All right. She just messaged me. She goes, I was in the bathroom and I rushed out for this. Of course you did. I know she's listening right now. Oh, yeah, that's good stuff. Very good stuff. Very happy with that. Turned out well. Oh, yeah, I'm going to get an angry granny face for that, for sure. For sure. That is so true. Oob Joe's Maine. And the SOR Space Travelers on our Facebook page, every time a suggestive comment was made, Gail would point this picture of his very stern, angry-looking grandmother. So we call it Angry Granny. So then we would try and make comments to try and get her to throw Angry Granny up. It was kind of funny. You got to be there. It's good stuff. Really? Did I do that again? All right, let's undo this. So like this. That's probably right there. That's where it looks to be. See if that looks familiar. Yep. It's really weird because as weird as it sounds, on my editing program here, you can actually, the music at the beginning of the show all looks the same. And when it's recorded, because it's the same song, obviously. And so when I'm kind of looking at the audio, I can tell where it is just by the pattern that it forms on the wave grid. It's kind of cool. You have the window wide open and it's raining outside and it's not even cooling down the studio here. Hey, Shirky Poo, if you're listening, come into the YouTube chat. Everybody wants to Shirky Poo you. Make your presence known. Hey, Ronald. What am I looking for? That's what I'm looking for. Oh, that's a good critter report. Solid critter report there, buddy. No aliens yet, of course. They're warming up, buddy. They're warming up to take you. Teresa has aliens. She's proud of her aliens. All right, there's one done. Oh, there we go. All right, guys, time to get your 6-digit verification codes ready. All right, get them 6-digit verification codes ready. Your verification code for tonight is 444-676. 444-676. Use it wisely to verify whatever it is you need to verify. See, it hasn't been that hot here. It's warm. It's not hot, though. Joe, I want to know how many glory holes are you going to have around Northern California there? I want to know this, Joe. That's what I like about it up here. It doesn't get muggy. Much prefer the winter. I'm a winter guy. Simeon Hine tomorrow night, everyone. Remote viewing, crop circles. We got it all tomorrow, everyone. Oh, yes, we got it all. Hey, Prairie Fire, wave for us, man. That way everybody in North America can see you. Just go to your front window. Give us a wave, doff the cap or something. Let us all see you, man. Show us the love. Are you sure it wasn't aliens grabbing you off the ground there, Joe? Where are we at here? 57% there, 58. And we're almost at 2 files there. Hector, how are you? Hector, I'm honestly, I'm not trying to be serious. I'm just tired. I'm just tired. That's all. Ugh. Apologize for yawning. Now you all will yawn and you can blame me for it. But tomorrow I'm taking my first day off of work in a long time. And I am going to spend it with my boy. We're going out in the wilderness to go for a long drive in the forest. It's going to be great. Just great. So looking forward to it. You're a mute button, Ronno. Oh yeah, there comes a moth in here. He found his way in. You jerk. Yeah, don't come over here. You'll get killed. I'm just telling you. You will die over here. Good job flying back over there. What are you talking about? Tomorrow. No, I'm taking a day off my daytime job. Tomorrow. Tomorrow. Yes, Ronno, trail bikes. Oh, Mr. Moth, you can't come on my computer screen here. That's just, that'll get you a suicide mission. Good night, fitness girl. Enjoy your lions in South Africa. Good night, Shanna Banana. You stay awesome. I had a bat the other day. Not in the studio, but when I was sitting on my patio having a beer, there was a bat flying around. That made me happy. Not gonna lie, that made me very happy. That's a kind of a painful bite. Sorry to hear that, Moonstone. Yeah, if you don't get rabies, there are not many elk in my area. They were pushed out years ago by the moose population. Trying to come back. All right, one done. Couple minutes left, people, before we're going to wrap this up. I'm curious to see if we'll see any animals tomorrow. I hope so. Makes it much more fun. I'm going... Excuse me. I'm going to suspect Chew is from Australia. Nope, there it is. Queensland, Australia. How's later today looking? I don't get it. I don't get it, Nikki. I'm way too tired to get it right now. All right, we are done. Time to start wrapping things up, everyone. Good old Davey, he's going to bed. My 16-hour day has come to a close. And, so yes. We're going to go have some fun with my boy tomorrow. And tomorrow night, Simeon Hine comes in, crop circles, remote viewing. And I know all of you will be here too. Super chat will be open. Thank you to everybody participating. Chew, Grendel, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, Cat Chaser, and Chocobo. I really do appreciate that. You guys are the best. And everybody else who supports this show, I love you. And thank you for making my life awesome. And yeah, you guys have a great night. I will talk to you tomorrow night. Hopefully I'll be a little bit more well rested, and we can go hang out and, do the radio thing, because that's kind of what we love to do. So let's do it all together, because that's what we love to do. And you guys come join us. I'll be here. I know you will. And let's do this thing. Let's do this thing. We'll have fun. Yes, we will.